everyone, and welcome to another episode of Off the Record. Today, I'm joined by Deirdre Venter, who is a partner in our employment law department. Deirdre is a full-spectrum attorney whose expertise has been recognized by Best Lawyers in the 2025 awards. Deirdre also frequently sits as an acting judge in the Labour Court, and she is an avid animal lover. Deirdre, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So today, Deirdre is going to be taking us through quite a controversial topic. Love is in the air, or should I say in the workplace air. To kick us off, Deirdre, as you know, a lot of people say the heart wants what it wants. As employees, if our hearts are aligned and we want to build a future together, are we doing something wrong by doing that?
That is the important question, is romantic relationships in the workplace. And I just want to take this opportunity to quote the Labour Court on the specific issue. There was a nice judgment, Rustenburg, Platinum Mines versus Peterson, where the judge said that a workplace is not a love sanctuary or a lonely hearts club, and that a workplace must be free from testosterone-filled and amorous employees, which I think is correct. So when you're talking about love or romantic relations in the workplace, yes, I think it is wrong for employees to bring that relationship into the workplace. It should stay out of the workplace within their private homes.
So what do we do in a situation where it happens? As you know, feelings come about and we are romantically involved as colleagues. Do those employees have to report to the employer, or is it going to be a situation of it is absolutely not allowed?
So, Unathi, that's a very interesting question, because I think as employers, we need to realize that an employee's workplace is a person's secondary home. And we spend so much time at work. We're human beings, and as human beings, relationships and connections will form. And considering we spend so much time in the workplace with our colleagues, romantic relationships may form. And I'm an example of a romantic relationship. My husband and I met in the workplace, funny enough, and it's 33 years into marriage. So we are a success
love story
of a workplace romance. But workplace romances are not always successful, and sometimes can have negative consequences for the employer, the two involved in the romantic relationship, as well as their colleagues. So employers should have policies in place that can regulate any romantic relationships, because there are behaviors and standards of behaviors that employees should adhere to in the workplace. And affection at the workplace should be one of those behaviors that should be regulated and possibly even not allowed.
Okay. You've mentioned two critical points that I want to cover: negative consequences and policies. But before we get to the policies, I'd like to know, what negative consequences are you referring to that could happen in situations of a workplace romance?
All right, so there's two scenarios there. The first scenario would be where the romantic relationship develops into, for example, my husband and I, into a successful romantic relationship, into a long-term relationship, and even possibly even into marriage. One of the negative consequences that could come from that form of relationship is specifically if the one party is in a senior position to the other, and you've got power dynamics. Now, specifically when you've got one person that's got power over another person, or has got power to influence that person's work environment, the person's salary, promotions. One of the parties in this romantic relationship, specifically the person that's got the authority and power, could actually start providing the other party with benefits. For example, better work allocations.
So favoritism.
Yes, okay. That's where I'm coming to is favoritism. The employee could be favored by his or her boss, which is obviously going to cause negative connotations for the team members of the other colleagues. There could also be, I'm using an example of, you've got a romantic relationship and these two want to they're in the same team and they want to take leave off and go on holiday together. Again, if they are granted leave and they're in the same team, that could place the rest of the team members under pressure. And also the other team members are going to start resenting this relationship because they're going to perceive that this couple's been treated special. So there's one of the negative consequences there. Another negative, very negative consequence for employer is if this romantic relationship turns sour. Often what would happen is the relationship would turn sour and the two parties now have to work together.
Yeah.
And a relationship that's been once romantic and now is no longer romantic is not ideal for the workplace. There'll be conflict, there'll be tension. That conflict and tension between those two individuals is going to overflow into the workplace and potentially cause a hostile work environment for others. There's also a possible consequence of where one of the parties may not be or may not have accepted that the relationship has come to an end, and he may use the time he has with this person in the workplace to try and get this romance going again. But another negative consequence I can think of where there's a romantic relationship is the couple showing public affection in the workplace. That could be offensive to other colleagues, yes, which could then result in grievances being lodged, which ultimately is not to the benefit of the employer. And resources will then be used to investigate complaints against a couple that's romantically involved.
Okay. So other employees can lay grievances if they are troubled or offended by a workplace relationship. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, no, of course. Okay. The employee is always free to lodge a grievance if he's finding another employee's behavior to be inappropriate in the workplace, 100%. The employer would then obviously have an obligation to investigate it. And this is where this romantic relationship then could become an issue in the workplace.
Okay. Now, moving on to policies, what kind of policies are you referring to? Is it an employer who has a document in place that says no workplace relationships are allowed? Or is it a policy that will set out that in the event that you fall in love with a colleague, these are the steps that you have to take?
Yeah, I think the policy I'm referring to would be a policy that won't necessarily ban employees from having romantic relationships. So I don't think an employer can ban employees from falling in love. It's a natural human emotion. We all, in some stage in our lives, fall in love, and it may be in the workplace. So the policy won't necessarily ban.
Okay.
What the policy would do is it would set out guidelines to the employees that if you do happen to become involved in a romantic relationship in the workplace, this will be the standards of behavior we would expect from you in the workplace.
Okay.
So it'd be regulating an employee's behavior that you're in this romantic relationship and there are certain behaviors in the workplace that we will not deem as appropriate. For example, public affection or any other behavior that colleagues may find offensive, and providing guidelines and rules as to prevent the favoritism and those consequences that can follow.
And the special treatment.
The special treatment, yeah.
Okay. As an employee, do I have to report to my employer once I've fallen in love with another colleague?
No, I think in the absence of a policy, there would be no obligation on you to report.
Okay. It
may be the right thing to do, but there is nothing in the law that would say that if you fall into a relationship with a colleague, you must report it. So what will make a policy important is the policy would impose a duty on the employee that once you're involved in a romantic relationship, you need to report it. So we, as your employer, can take necessary steps we may deem necessary in order to manage that relationship within the workplace.
And when does this reporting happen? So let's say I'm in a talking stage and it's fun, it's flirty, but it isn't an established exclusive relationship. Do I still have to report the talking stage, or do I only report once I've had what is trending as the girlfriend proposal and I see it written on the plates and it's exclusive? When does that reporting have to take place?
I think that would largely depend on from when does the employer want to start managing that relationship. But I think in my view, it would arise, the duty to report would arise when either party, and now the couple, mutually have agreed that this is it. We are now in this exclusive relationship, and it now becomes an issue where we're in the workplace daily for extended periods of time, and the employer now needs to start managing it. So that is when I think the duty would be imposed on the employees that once we're exclusive, we boyfriend and girlfriend, my name is on the plate. That is when I think you should then go to HR and say, guys, we're involved in this relationship.
And on that note of my name being on a plate, Deirdre, thank you so much for joining us today. If you as an employer are in a position where you want the policy that Deirdre is referring to, please feel free to reach out to her so that you can manage the situation accordingly. Please join us for another episode of Off the Record, where we'll have another special guest taking us through trending topics of employment law. Thank you.